So today we start the problems. A block of silver of mass 4 kg, so hanging from a string, is immersed in a liquid of relative density 0.72. If a relative density of silver is 10, then tension in the string is. So children, here, if they give the relative density, what is the relative density? So relative density is equal to density of the object by density of water, density of water. So how to get density, the actual density of the object is equal to relative density into density of water. So density of water in CGS unit is 1 gram per centimeter cube. Density of water in SI units is 10 cube. Okay, so simply remember relative density into density of what is absolute density of any object. Okay, now, so it is like this. So it is like this. There is a rigid support and a silver block is attached like this. The mass is 4 kg. This is the silver block and the mass is 4 kg. It is immersed in a liquid. Suppose if there is no string, then this silver block will definitely sink to the bottom. Why? Density of silver is greater than density of liquid. What is the density of liquid? They gave 0.72 relative density. So now see here, tension T. What are the forces that will be acting on the block, silver block? So there will be tension T in the string. There will be weight. The weight is 40 Newton downward. Okay, so G is given how much? G, okay, we take 10 only. Okay, so 40 Newton, and there will be force of buoyancy also. There will be force of buoyancy. Now here complete volume of silver block is submerged, complete volume. So they gave the mass of silver block as 4 kg. Now from the mass is equal to volume into density is equal to 4. So volume of the solid, silver. So volume is equal to 4 divided by rho s. Okay. So rho s value, what is that is density of the silver. Density of the silver is the relative density into density of water. So remember, this is the volume of silver block. Now, under the action of these three forces, it will be equilibrium. So if you account for the equilibrium of the silver block, so if you account for the equilibrium of the silver block, sum of upward force will be equal to sum of downward force. Tension T plus force of buoyancy, so will be equal to 40 Newton. So tension T we have to find. Tension T is equal to 40 minus force of buoyancy. Okay. So tension T is equal to 40 minus force of buoyancy, volume of the solid submerged, density of the liquid into G. Okay. So tension T is equal to 40 minus volume is 4 by 10 into 10 cubed. Already we have calculated. Into density of liquid is 0.72 into 10 cubed. Why? Because they gave relative density of the liquid as 0.72. So relative density into density of water gives you the density of that object. So this gets cancelled, and so you will get tension T equal to 40 minus. Okay, so 10 also gets cancelled. Now 4 into 0.72. 4 into 0.72 is how much? So tell me. 4 into 0.72. Okay, so this will be close to 1 minute. Huh? No, that 4 into 0.72. How much? Final value 2.88. Okay. Yeah. So it is 2.88. So what is the tension? 37.12. This is the answer. Quickly copy. Quickly copy. I explained the topics in detail. Now I'll go fast. Done? Okay. I'll give 1 minute. Done, children? Okay. Next one. See this question. Nice question. See this question. Read that question. In the arrangement shown in the figure, mass of the block is 3m, density of liquid is rho, and the density of block B is 2 rho. The system is released from rest so that the block B moves up when it is in the liquid, and moves down when it is out of the liquid in the same with the same acceleration. Find the mass of the block. So children already know. So acceleration, so this is the Edward mission in the Newton's laws of motion. Acceleration is equal to net pulling force by total mass. Net pulling force by total mass. Net pulling force by total mass. Now children, here when, okay, there is a so there is a formula for acceleration here. Now here, when the block B is inside the liquid, the block B will go up and block A will come down. How to calculate net pulling force? Now see here. So copy that formula, net pulling force by total mass. Now when block B is inside the liquid, when block B is inside the liquid, you have to take apparent weight in the net pulling force. You have to take apparent weight of the block B. Whenever a solid is inside, whenever a solid is inside the liquid, you have to take apparent weight. Now, what is apparent weight of the block B? Okay, so you know the formula: true weight minus force of buoyancy. What is true weight? 3 mg. So, what is force of buoyancy? Volume of the solid submerged into density of liquid into g. Now, what is volume? So, mass of the block B is given. So, density is also given. Volume we can calculate. Mass of the block B divided by density of the block B gives you volume into rho into g. Rho gets cancelled. So you will get 3 mg by 2. This is the apparent weight of block B. First copy this, quickly copy this. Now once we get apparent weight, now what is net pulling force? See children, in the net pulling force formula, tension will not come. Now block A will pull the system leftward. Block B will pull the system, don't consider tensions. Block B will pull the tension rightward with apparent weight. With apparent weight. Okay, why? Because it is inside the liquid with apparent weight. Now, so according to the question, block A is going downward, block B is going upward with the same acceleration. Now we put the formula for acceleration. Copy this. Have I copied this? I copied this. Okay. So if you have copied this, this is the apparent weight. You know. Now what is the net pulling force? Now put the formula for acceleration. So when block B is inside the liquid, when block B is inside the liquid, you have to take only apparent weight in net pulling force. That is 3 mg by 2. Okay. Now, what is the formula for acceleration? Formula for acceleration is A equal to net pulling force. MAG will pull the system leftward. Apparent weight of block B will pull rightward. But who will win? Who is winning? MAG is winning. Why? Because ultimately the block A is going down. Divided by total mass. Total mass. Equation number 1. Okay, say this is equation number 1. Quickly copy that. Now we will get one more equation. MA is unknown. Okay, done children? Copied. Net pulling force. Net pulling force is, see, one block will try to pull the system in one way, and another block will try to pull the system rightward. But who will win? Ultimately, block A is winning. Now then, after that, next, when, okay, remember that formula. I'll write on the top. Equation number 1, I'll write on the top. MAG minus 3mg by 2 divided by MA divided by 3m. Say the equation number 1. Now, when it is someone is writing how leftward rightward, that is the basic thing that which has been taught in Newton's laws. So which should have been taught in Newton's laws. Again, don't pull me for first year. Again, in the Newton's laws of motion has been covered. Even in division also covered. Net pulling force by total mass. How to take net pulling force by total mass for each and every letter that I put on the screen. You asked out. That's a basic thing. Okay. Now, when B is outside the liquid, B is outside the liquid. When B is outside the liquid, now no force of buoyancy. No force of buoyancy. You have to take the true weight only. So it is like this. It is like this. So then this diagram will not work when block B is outside. This is block A and this is block B. Block B is going downward and block A is going upward according to the question. In the question itself they gave. The question itself they gave. This is 3 mg to take actual weight and this is MAG. MAG. Now, what is the net pulling force? Now 3 mg will be greater. Now 3 mg will be greater than this. MAG. Okay, now acceleration is equal to 3 net pulling force 3 mg minus MAG divided by MA plus 3M. Equation number 2. Equate these two equations, you will get MA. Equation number 1 equal to equation number 2 because accelerations are same in both the cases. Accelerations are same. So that's why you equate them and you will get only unknown is MA here. M is now is given. Okay. So you can calculate MA value. MA will comes out to be 9M by 4. Done? Okay, next. Equate these two equations. Someone is asking, won't the accelerations will be different in both in two cases? Yeah, different. Directions are different, but magnitudes are same. Yeah, accelerations are different. Magnitude of accelerations are same. So this is equation number 2. That is equation number 1. You MAG minus 3mg by 2 divided by MA plus 3m. G will go cross multiply, and you cross multiply MA is equal to 9m by 4. So that simplification you can do. That is LKG mathematics. That is LKG mathematics. Done, children? Okay, yeah? G will go after cancelling G, you cross multiply. Okay. Done. Shall we go to the next one? Okay. Yes. See, this air is streaming past a horizontal aeroplane wing such that its speed is 90 meters per second at the lower surface and 120 meters per second over the upper surface. So if the wing is 10 meter long and has an average width of 2 meter, that means now you can calculate the area of the wing. Area of the wing is length into breadth. That is 20 meters square. The difference of pressure on the two sides and gross lift on the wing will be. So gross lift means up thrust, that is upward force, because of so Bernoulli's principle. Dynamic lift we call. Okay, so that will be. It's not force of buoyancy. It's like force of buoyancy, but here we don't say it is force of buoyancy. So air will say this is the side view of the air wing. Air will flow fast on the top, but it will flow slow on the bottom. Now, say this is point 1. Say this is point 2. Point 1, point 2. Apply Bernoulli's principle. At point 1, we have speed 90 meter per second. At point 2, we have speed 120 meter per second. Okay. So now this is the Bernoulli's principle. P1 plus half rho V1 square is equal to P2 plus half rho V2 square. So actually there is a small height difference between 1 and 2, but you apply Bernoulli's principle for a horizontal line only. Why? Because the height of the wing with respect to ground is more. So that this height difference is very, very small. Okay, the height difference is very, very small between those two. So you can apply Bernoulli's principle for a horizontal line. So P1 minus P2 they're asking first, equal to half rho V2 square minus V1 square. So pressure difference delta P equal to rho is 1.3 air. So density of air is 1.3 by 2. V2 is 120 square minus V1 is 90 square. So you'll get 4095 Pascal. Once if we get pressure difference, okay. So uh, force exerted by air on the wing is the upward force will be pressure difference into area. So what is the pressure difference? 4095 into what is the area of the wing? 20 meter square is equal to 81900 Newton. Okay. So copy this, children. Applying Bernoulli's principle between so where and where we are comparing Bernoulli's principle? At the bottom of the wing and at the top of the wing. Bottom of the wing, top of the wing. We'll applying Bernoulli's principle. Bernoulli's principle. Done? Yes, mains and some advanced questions are also there. Done, children? Okay. Shall I go to the next one? Okay. Next one. So this I gave, right, how pressure varies is in an accelerating liquid, how pressure varies in an accelerating liquid, how pressure varies with the depth and with the horizontal line. So for the L-shaped vessel shown in the figure, determine the value of acceleration A so that the pressure at point A becomes equal to P naught by 2. So point B is open to atmosphere. So you have to travel from point B to the point A like this. You know, yesterday I gave that. Start your journey at the point A, point B. Pressure, say the pressure at the point B is PB. PB, you are going down plus rho GH. So, and you are going, you are in the horizontal line, you are traveling in the direction of acceleration. So, minus rho AH. Rho AH equal to pressure at the point A, pressure at the point A. So equal to pressure at the point A. So now pressure at the point B is P naught. Why? Because it is open atmosphere plus rho GH minus rho AH is equal to pressure at the point A should be P naught by 2 according to that. So now you send minus rho AH to that side. So and P naught by 2 this side. It becomes P naught by 2 plus rho GH is equal to rho AH. Okay. So A you keep there and rho H you bring this side. So P naught by 2 rho H plus G will be remaining equal to A. This should be the acceleration. That's it. Yesterday I covered this concept, right? Yes. Okay. Copy that. Most of the problems you can do with the help of those concepts which I gave. Done? Okay. Next. So this also I gave, right? Suppose if you make a hole at the bottom and anywhere, and so if you have two immiscible liquids, then what is the speed of efflux? Yesterday I gave the one formula C, directly you can substitute. Speed of efflux, neglecting the speed of liquid inside the beaker. Yesterday I gave this formula C here, rho 1 H1 plus rho 2 H2 into what you get, 2G, am I correct, divided by rho 2. Am I correct, children? This is the formula yesterday I gave in this case. Okay, so rho 1. What is rho 1? Rho H1, 2H plus rho 2, 2 rho H2, H So both are 2 rho h into 2g, that is divided by rho 2. Rho 2 is 2 rho. So rho 2 means the liquid which is coming out. So substitute, you'll get the answer. So how much you'll get? This is 4, 8, 8 by 2, 4. Okay. So how much you get here? 4 GH you will get. 4 GH is nothing but 2 into root over GH. Option B. You understood, children? Yesterday I covered this topic, right? Yesterday I covered this topic. So that's why with the help of those topics you can do maximum. Done, children? Okay. Clearly in the diagram they have shown here is the whole diagram. That means you don't have the habit of seeing the diagram. Here, see, we don't see properly, no? Diagram we don't see, question we don't read. See? Huh? This also I covered. Okay, directly you can apply formula rho 1 H1 equal to rho 2 H2. That's it. We covered. Okay. So covered or not? H2 is this 2 centimeter. H1 we have to calculate. Rho 1 is water. Okay. So you can substitute in gram per centimeter cube also. 1 gram per centimeter cube. H1 we have to calculate. Rho 2 is 13.6 gram per centimeter cube. H2 is 2. Yesterday I covered this concept. So H1 is equal to 27.2 centimeter. Directly you can apply the formula. See, all the problems can be done with the help of the concepts, the topics which I gave. Okay, done, children? Next. Easy. Next one. This also I covered. I covered like, see, um, torque exerted by liquid on the vertical wall I covered, right? But there torque we have calculated about the bottom. But here the midpoint is hinged. The middle line is hinged. So the torque here, see, whatever the liquid that we have above that middle line, it will produce clockwise torque. Whatever the torque that we have below that middle line, it will produce anti-clockwise torque. So this is 1 meter and this is also 1 meter. So they gave 1 into 1 rectangular dam, rectangular vertical wall. Now I asked you to remember this formula. Torque equal to, before you apply the limits, rho gx, rho gh, rho gh, 1 minute, rho gh x square by 2. Okay, so minus rho gh cube divided by 2. Limits are, what are the limits I gave? Limits are 0 to, okay, so limits are 0 to x or 0 to h I give. Okay, 0 to h. But don't here, what do you do here? So the whatever the liquid that we have above the middle line will produce clockwise torque. Okay, so first you calculate clockwise torque in the same formula, but limits will be 0 to half. Okay, then anti-clockwise torque. Okay, for to calculate anti-clockwise torque in the same integration, rho g h x square by 2 minus rho g h cubed by 2. Okay, so limits are here. Limits will be half to 1, half to 1. You put the limits half to 1. Okay, so here also 3. You put the limits half to 1. So you integrate, you calculate anti-clockwise torque, you calculate anti-clockwise torque, you calculate clockwise torque, and then you calculate the net torque. The net torque must be equal to, so here Because of the net torque, the gate or the vertical wall will rotate in the anti-clockwise direction. To avoid that, we have to apply one force at the bottom. So our force will produce one torque about the middle line. What is the torque produced by our force? So that is force into perpendicular distance, F into half, F into half. So the net torque should be equal to the net torque means that is the resultant torque exerted by liquid. You calculate the resultant torque exerted by liquid. Okay, so you calculate the resultant torque exerted by the liquid. That is net torque should be equal to our torque. Then you will get F value. So that part you do separately integrate. Okay, so separately integrate, and that part you do. Can you do that part? Okay, I gave already formula. Or else you can start the integration from the scratch. Directly you can calculate the net torque. Directly also you can calculate the net torque. Okay, this is rho g x squared. Okay, okay. 1 minute, children. 1 minute, 1 minute. This is rho g x cubed. Am I correct? X cubed by 3, x cubed by 3. Okay. See the formula? That is the formula. That part can you do? Can you try? Calculate the clockwise torque. Calculate the anti-clockwise torque by substituting the limits. After that, what do you have to do? Net torque. How do you calculate the net torque? So torque anti-clockwise minus torque clockwise. So this net torque is substitute here. You will get the force which we have to apply at the bottom. Okay, children? Understood? Understood or not? No, no. Okay. So once again, see the formula rho g h x squared by 2. H is the total value. H equal to 1 meter total depth. H equal to 1 meter. H equal to 1 meter. Okay. This one. This one. Okay, H equal to 1 meter. Okay, children. That part you do, you will get the answer as C, rho g by 6. Then, what is the next one? Okay, this model also I gave. A tank is filled up to a height 2h with a liquid and is placed on a platform of height h from the ground. The distance x from the ground where a small hole is punched to get the maximum range R is. To get the maximum range. So to get the maximum range, okay, so yesterday I gave one concept. Yes, it is 1.5 H only. Okay. Say the depth of the hole from the surface is H. Then what is the height of the hole from the ground? It is X. X is equal to, okay, so X is equal to 3H minus H. Now, speed of flux. So speed of flux is equal to root over 2gh. Already I told you speed of flux depends on depth, but time of flight depends on the height of the hole from the ground. From which ground? This ground. From the ground, so at which the water is striking. So that is root over 2 into h minus h divided by, sorry, the 3h minus h. What is the height of that? It is 3h minus h divided by g. Now, what is the horizontal range? Horizontal range is equal to v into t. So when you multiply both of them, you will get like, so 4h, gg gets cancelled into 3h minus h. Okay, so horizontal range you will get, so it is, okay, r square, I'll take r square is equal to, so 4h, okay, so into 3h minus h. multiply, when I multiply 12hh minus 4h square. Now children, where r is maximum, there r square is also maximum. So first derivative, we have to take the first derivative of this r square with respect to h. So first derivative should be equated to 0 to find maxima minima. So now, what is the first derivative of the above function, this function with respect to h? 12h into derivative of small h is 1 minus 8h equal to 0. So 12h is equal to 8h. So h is equal to 3h by 2. So if you want a shortcut formula, this is the shortcut formula. What is the total? So wherever you make the whole, wherever you make the whole, okay. So here the question is, where you have to make the hole, at what height you have to make the hole so that range is maximum. To get the maximum range, the shortcut formula is, okay, what is the total height, children? 3h, right? What is the total height of the surface, not hole? What is the total height of the surface from this ground? What is the total height of the surface? What is the total height of the surface of the rectangle from this ground? 3h. Half of that you take 3h by 2. That's where, so it's where you have to make the hole. That's it. Simple. If you know the total height, half of the total height, that's it. That's where you have to make the hole. At that height, you have to make the hole so that the range will be maximum. Okay? Understood? That's a shortcut formula. Done, children? Okay. Suppose I give one example, one more example. One more example. Okay. Now tell me here in this case, this is 2h and this is 3h. Now, at what height from the ground means here, at what height from the ground we have to make the hole so that the range is maximum? Tell me. 2.5h. Very good, very good, very good. Understood? Understood? Easy. Shortcut formula. Huh? Okay, okay. So, all of you copied that? Shall we go to the next one? Okay. Two wires A and B of same dimensions are under loads of 4 and 5 kg respectively. Ratio of Young's moduli of materials. Okay, it is easy question. It is based on what is that? Stress and strain, that is Young's modulus. Okay. Okay, so for same elongation in the wire A, elongation in the wire A is equal to elongation in the wire B. Same dimensions means length will be same. What is the formula for delta L? Delta L is equal to, okay, so and here under loads, okay, loads are given. Delta L is equal to F1 L, L is same divided by A is same, Y1 is equal to F2 into L divided by A into Y2. L gets cancelled. A gets cancelled. So now they are asking ratio of Young's moduli. Y1 by Y2 equal to F1 by F2. That is M1G divided by M2G. F1 means M1G, F2 means F2, M2G. Gets cancelled. M1 by M2, 4 by 5.5. But in the ratio, it's not good to keep decimals. So if you avoid the decimals, if you eradicate the decimals, then you'll get, if you remove the decimals, you'll get 8 by 11. Okay, children, understood? Simple formula, right? बच्चे simple. For simple question also you feel difficulty. For difficult question also you feel difficulty. For nothing also you feel difficulty. If I don't teach and if I am silent, also you will feel difficulty. Hmm. Done? Okay. Then go to the next one. This is also easy. A copper solid cube of 60 millimeters side is subjected to a compressible pressure. Compressible pressure means this is the extra pressure applied. Bulk modulus is given, B is given, change in the volume. Okay, what is the formula for bulk modulus? Bulk modulus is equal to the pressure applied divided by minus delta V by V. Okay, so delta V they are asking. Okay, first you pull the value of delta V divided by V. Delta V by V is equal to minus delta P divided by V. So then delta V they are asking. Delta V equal to minus delta P divided by V into V. Okay, so now delta V is equal to what? Minus delta P minus delta P 2.5 into 10 to the power of 7 divided by bulk modulus 1.25 into 10 to the power of 11 into what is the initial volume? They gave the side of the cube. So what is the volume of the cube? A cubed 60 into 10 to the power of minus 3 whole cubed. Simplify children, you will get the answer. How much you are getting? Simplify करो, मुझे आंसर बताइए. Tell me the answer. Tell me the answer. Are you getting A? Children, are you getting A? Okay. Now, shall we go to the next one? Are you getting C? All of you minus 43.2 millimeter cube means you would have got uh, minus 3 into, okay, minus 9. Are you getting this? No. Millimeter cube, right? No. How much? Wait. Millimeter cube. You should have got 10 to the power of minus 3 whole cubed. Okay. Yeah. So are you getting 9? 10 to the power of minus 9. Okay. Done, children? All of you got that? 43.2. Yeah. Since it is a millimeter, yeah. They gave side of the cube is in millimeter. So I'm converting that into SI units, meters. So in one formula, make sure that all quantities are substituted in one system of units. In one system of units. Okay. Next. Which of the following is more elastic? Steel, because the material whose Young's modulus is more, that will be more elastic. The material whose Young's modulus is more, that will be more elastic. Among the given materials, steel will have more Young's modulus generally. So remember that more is the Young's modulus, more is the more will be elastic nature of the elastic nature means more rigid it will be, more rigid it will be. Okay, done. Next, a 2-meter long rod radius 1 centimeter which is fixed from one end is given a twist of 0.8 8 radians. Okay, the shear strain developed will be okay. Yes, I gave a formula for this, right? Suppose one end of the rod is attached to this, okay, other end is okay twisted like this. So I gave formula, right? And this is the cross sectional view. So theta dash is the twisting angle and x r is the radius. So shear strain theta equal to x by l. L is the length. I gave this formula right yesterday. Okay. So x is equal to what? R theta dash. So theta equal to R theta dash divided by L. Theta is shear strain, theta dash is rotation angle, twisting angle. Substitute, you'll get the answer. So theta equal to R is how much? 1 centimeter. And twisting angle is given in radians, and that radians is SI unit divided by L. So what is the L? 2 meter. So how much you get? Theta equal to 0.8 radian. Radian is SI unit only. If they give degrees, so if they give angle in degrees, then you have to convert. Done, children? Done? Okay, okay. B, option B. Okay, right. Go to the next one. Young's modulus of perfectly rigid body. So Young's modulus of perfectly rigid body is Young's modulus of perfectly rigid body is infinity, because I tell you, basically what is the formula for Young's modulus? Young's modulus is equal to FL divided by A into delta L. Rigid body, perfectly rigid body means there won't be elongation at all. That means the rigid body will not respond to the deforming forces. The rigid body will not respond to the deforming forces even if you apply any amount of force. So there won't be strain, a small amount of strain produced. Delta L will be 0 for a perfectly rigid body. If delta L is 0, Young's modulus is equal to 1 by 0 equal to infinity. Understood, children? Understood? So why it is infinity? Okay. Next. Done? Yeah, yeah, I'll go. No, no, it is this button is not working. Okay, next. So from this graph, so we can find what they're asking, Young's modulus. See that load is given. So this is a load is attached to the wire. When you increase the load, elongation also increases. Elongation is given on the y-axis. Load is given on the x-axis. Okay, now you apply. Okay, when you apply 20 Newton load, what is the elongation? 1 into 10 to the power of minus 4 meter. When you apply 40 Newton load, so now 2 into 10 to the power of minus 4. Okay, when you apply 63 into some that 80 that. So now for each load, you know the elongation. Now what is the formula for Young's modulus? Young's modulus is equal to FL divided by A into delta L. Here F is load only. Now you have to take only one particular load. You should not take all loads. I'll take 20 Newton load. You can take 40 also. For 20 Newton load, what is the elongation? 1 into 10 to the power of minus 4. Okay. So Young's modulus equal to F is 20 Newton. L they gave 1 meter. 1. Area they gave. Where is that area? Okay. 10 to the power of minus 6. Okay. Into elongation. Elongation from the graph. 1 into 10 to the power of minus 4. Okay. So what is Young's modulus? Calculate. So do you get 2 into 10 to the power of 11? Yeah, 2 into 10 to the power of 11 Newton per meter square. You understood, children? You can take 40. For 40, it is 2 into 10 to the power of minus 4. Within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. So what is that? Hooke's law. Hooke's law. Done, children? Okay. Next. See here. This is the graph which shows how potential energy of a solid varies with interatomic distance. So how potential energy of a solid varies with the interatomic distance. See, to understand that, you can think of a spring connected between two adjacent atoms, any two adjacent atoms in a solid. In a solid, there will be close packing of atoms. Between any two adjacent atoms, if we have a spring, so how do they behave? Same way they behave without spring also. That means a spring like force would be acting between the two adjacent atoms in a solid. So what does it mean? What does it mean? So let us understand this. Say take a spring. Okay, I have taken spring and attach two atoms. Now, when the spring has natural length, when spring has natural length, then so will there be any force on these two atoms, children? Will there be any force on those two atoms? No. Why? Because there is no elongation for the spring, there is no compression for the spring. Now, what I do here, I elongate, okay, I displace the two atoms. I displace the two atoms. So this atom will be displayed here, this atom will be displayed here. So when the spring has natural length, say that is mean distance, now this, so beyond that mean distance, I am increasing the separation. When I increase the separation, what will happen to the elongation of the spring? What will happen to the elongation of the spring? Tell me. Increases. Am I correct? Increases. Okay. Okay. When elongation increases, how does spring force act on this atom like this and on this atom like this? Am I correct? Spring force, not my force. Spring force. Am I correct? So when I release the atoms, children, when I release the atoms, so will they come closer to each other and will they go away from each other? Tell me. Will they come closer or go away? Why do they come closer? Tell me. When you elongate or when you increase the interatomic distance beyond mean distance, okay, so beyond mean distance, mean separation, so they come closer to each other, right? That means there will be attractive force or repulsive force. There will be attractive force or repulsive force. Attractive. Remember that. Remember that. Okay, remember that. Now, next situation. So in the next situation, what do? I bring the two atoms close to each other. This is main distance. Now I bring close to each other. When I bring close to each other, what will happen to what will happen to the spring? Will it be compressed? So will it get compressed or will it get elongated? Compressed. Now how the spring force will be? How the spring force will be acting on the two atoms? Away. Am I correct? Away. Am I correct? Yeah, kx and kx. So with this kind of forces, with this nature of forces, what do you say? You can say that the two atoms are repelling each other. Am I correct? The two atoms are repelling each other. Am I correct? Though you don't have spring, though you don't actually have spring between two atoms physically present there, but still any two adjacent atoms behave in the same way. What makes the atoms to behave like this? So I tell you that. See, here come to the graph. So this is the graph between potential energy of two atoms versus interatomic distance. Okay, this is main distance, children. This is R naught. Now we have an important relation in work energy power. So you should not forget that. Very, very important relation. Conservative force is equal to minus du by dr. Do you remember this formula? You can do wonders with this formula. It's a small formula, but you can do wonders. You can do. So actually, this formula will tell you so much. Okay, so if you want me to speak on this formula, I can speak 2 hours or 3 hours also. Okay, So visit Yelahanka campus, I'll tell you. F equal to minus du by dr. Conservative force. Yeah, it comes everywhere. It comes everywhere. This is fantastic formula. Beautiful formula. So it tells you lot of things, lot of things. But the formula is shorter, very shorter. But it tells you lot of things. F equal to minus du by dr. The conservative force is equal to negative first derivative of potential energy. Conservative force is equal to negative first derivative of potential energy. Okay, now see children, du by dr is also slope, am I correct? Du by dr, here on y-axis what we have? U. On x-axis what we have? R. Du by dr also signifies, also represents slope, am I correct? Also signifies the slope, am I correct? It is something like, man, see, this is y-axis, okay, this is x-axis. What is du? What is dy by dx? Tell me, what is dy by dx? Slope only, no? What is dy by dx? Ayo Ramchandra, slope only, no? Okay. In place of dy, what we have here? In place of dy, what we have? Du. In place of dx, what we have here? R. Du by dr signifies what? Designates what? Slope only, right? Slope. Okay. Slope. Okay. Understood, all of you? Understood? Okay. Now, see children. Now, what is this graph? First, you understand what is that graph? The graph is the relation between. No. I come to that. What the graph is the relation between potential energy and interatomic distance. Potential energy of two atoms and interatomic separation. Now, see children. See. See, R naught is mean interatomic distance. Mean interatomic distance. So when the separation between two atoms is R naught, now we draw a tangent here. We draw a tangent. What is the slope of this tangent here? What is the slope of the tangent? 0 or positive or negative at the point B? 0. If slope is 0, see this all of you. See this all of you. If slope is 0 at point B, at B slope is 0, that is du by dr is 0. So F is equal to minus of 0 equal to 0. Force between two atoms at mean interatomic distance is 0. Even here also 0, children, am I correct? So even if we have a spring between two atoms, so the mean separation, or when the spring is having natural length, the force will be 0. Okay, now come to this point, point C. Point C means somewhere here. Okay, point C. At point C, you draw a tangent to this curve. You draw a tangent to the curve. If you draw a tangent to the curve, so the slope of this tangent will have positive value or negative value. Slope of the tangent is positive or negative? Positive. Okay, now come to this formula. F equal to minus du by dr. Du by dr is slope. So F equal to, already minus sign is there. Slope is positive. Slope is positive. So negative into positive gives you negative. So negative. Force is negative here. Am I correct? At the point C, force is negative because slope is positive. Children, always remember, if conservative force is negative, it is repulsive, it is attractive. If the conservative force is negative, it is attractive in nature. So attractive in nature. So a point C, see point C, what is the interatomic separation? So what is the interatomic separation? Beyond the mean distance or less than mean distance? Tell me. Beyond mean distance or less than? Lesser. Distance is measured from here. More than mean distance or less than mean distance? More than mean distance, right? More than. If interatomic separation is more than mean distance, then the force on the atoms would be attractive. Attractive. Similar to this. Similar. This is point C concept. Okay, understood all of you? Now come to the point A. When you come to the point A, okay, somewhere here. somewhere here. Draw the tangent. This tangent will have negative slope or positive slope? Negative slope, right? Okay. Again, put the formula f equal to minus du by dr. Okay. So minus, the slope is negative, minus. So minus into minus plus. So always remember, if the conservative force is positive, it will be repulsive, repulsive, repulsive. Okay. Now see, children, here at the point A, what is interatomic separation? Is it less than R naught or more than R naught? Less than R naught. That means when you bring the atoms close, so when you bring the atoms close to each other, now what kind of force will be acting on the atoms? Repulsive or attractive? Repulsive. Okay, understood, children? Understood? So any two adjacent atoms or all the atoms in a solid behave as if springs were connected between them. So there will be mean separation between any two adjacent atoms. Beyond or below that mean separation, if you disturb those atoms, if you increase that separation, there will be attractive force. So they'll try to come to their original position on their own. And when you decrease the separation and leave them, and they'll try to go back to the original to their original position. So when you bring the two atoms so closer by, then repulsive force will be acting. When you increase the separation of two adjacent atoms beyond R naught, so a attractive force will be acting. So this is how atoms behave in a solid. Now you can answer this question. Answer the question. Answer the question. Attracted when x lies between A and B, x is the interatomic distance. Attracted when x lies between A and B, and are repelled when x lies between B and C. Tell me. When x lies between B and C, what will happen? What will happen? Attracted, right? Attracted. But they gave attraction for A and B also. When x lies between A and B, will it be attracted? It will be attractive? No. So option A is denied. Wrong. Option A is wrong. Attracted when x lies between B and C, correct? And repelled when x lies between A and B, correct? No. Okay. Are attracted when they reach from B to C? No. Are attracted when they reach from B to reach B from C. Okay. When they reach B from C, that means in this direction, when it decreases. Are repelled when they reach B from A. No. So only option B is correct. Okay, understood? Understood? Okay. So this much story is there for this question. Next. Any other doubt in this? Okay, clear. Okay. Yes. If the ratio of radii of two wires of same material is 2:1 and the ratio of their length is 4:1, then the ratio of the normal forces that will produce the same extension in the two wires is, okay, same delta L1 equal to delta L2. What is the formula for delta? Okay, same force, ratio of the normal forces that will produce, then the ratio of the normal forces, they're asking forces only. So F1 and radius, so F1 L1 divided by A, same material, same material. So A1 into Y is equal to F2 into L2 divided by A2 into Y. Y gets cancelled here. They're asking F1 by F2. So F1 by F2 is equal to L2 by L1 into A1 by A2. A1 by A2 you can also write it as here. L2 by L1 into pi R1 square divided by pi R2 square cylindrical wires. Unless and until it is mentioned, so you should consider wires to be cylindrical. So by default, F1 by F2 equal to L2 divided by L1. Okay, so into R1 by R2 whole square. Okay, substitute what is L1 by L2? 4:1. But L2 L1. 1 by 4 into R1 by R2 whole square. 2 by 1 whole square. So you'll get 1 is to 1. 1 is to 1. Understood, children? Huh? 1, sir. 1 only. 1 is to 1. 1 means 1 is to 1. Yeah. Done, sir. Okay. Instead of typing done, sir, you typed 1. Okay. Okay. Jace Joseph. Done, children. Remaining. You can complete at least 25 problems. Don't worry. Are comfortable. Okay. Next. This, you see, a steel wire of length L at 40 degrees centigrade is suspended from the ceiling, and then a mass M is hung from its free end. The wire is cooled down from 40 to 30 degrees centigrade to regain its original length L. The coefficient of linear expansion of the material is that much, alpha. Young's modulus of the steel is given, and radius of the wire is 1 millimeter. Okay. From that, you can calculate area of cross section, that is pi r square. Assume that L is greater than diameter of the wire. Okay, that's okay. Then value of M in kg is, okay, it is something like this, children. You have a wire like this. You have a wire like this. Now, what you do, you cool that wire, or when you heat the wire. If you heat the wire, the thermal force will be developed. Ya alpha delta theta. Do you remember? Even when you cool it, thermal force will be developed. Okay, compressive thermal force. So when you cool the wire or when you heat the wire, thermal force will be developed. When you heat the wire, because of the thermal force, it will expand. And when you cool the wire, because of the thermal force, it will contract. It will contract. I want to avoid that contraction. When I cool it from 40 to 30, the length of the wire decreases, but I don't want the length of the wire to be decreased. For that, I attach one load. I attach one load. So what does this load do? This load will try to expand the wire. Am I correct? Understood? This load will try to expand the wire. Cooling will try to contract the wire. Suppose if I don't want contraction, either contraction or elongation, then that Ya alpha delta T should be equal to mg. Am I correct? Yes or no? That's it. That is the formula. Understood the formula? What I wrote? Thermal force because of cooling. Thermal force because of cooling should be equal to mg. Then only contraction will not be there. You can avoid the contraction of the wire. Okay, so substitute. What they're asking? M they're asking. Okay, so everything you can substitute. Young's modulus is how much? 10 to the power of 11. Area of cross section you can calculate into pi into 1 into 10 to the power of minus 3 whole square, alpha into 10 to the power of minus 5. Change in temperature, substitute only magnitude, equal to m into g. You take 10. 10 will be cancelled. So what is the m value? Tell me. What is the m value? Tell me. 3.14. Okay, nearly 3. Then what is the best option? Best choice? 3. Yeah, 3. Okay. Yeah, 3.14 you are getting. Okay, that means everything will go and pi is remaining. Okay, 6. Correct. Pi will be remaining. So it is 3.14 kg, which is equal to 3. The best choice is, the right choice is 3. Okay. 10 to the power of minus 3. Yeah. Why 10 to the power of minus 3? We have substituted everything in SI units, right? No. Why 10 to the power of minus 3? Kg only. In kg. Everything we have substituted in SI units, we'll get in we will get mass also in SI units. Okay. Go to the next one. Okay. Right. This also easy. When a pressure of 100 atmosphere is applied in a spherical ball, then its volume reduces by 0.01%, bulk modulus of the material of the rubber in dyne per centimeter square. First you calculate in Newton per meter square. Okay. So basically, what is the formula for bulk modulus? Okay, but before you calculate bulk modulus, they gave percentage change in the volume. So minus delta V by V they gave. It is 0.0 percentage change in the volume formula is this percentage decrease in the volume into 100 equal to 0.01. So minus delta V divided by V is equal to 0.01 divided by 100 equal to 1 into 10 to the power of minus 4. Remember. Now what is the formula for bulk modulus? Bulk modulus is equal to the pressure applied divided by minus delta V by V. Already we have that value. So 100 atmosphere. 100 atmosphere. You have to convert that atmosphere into Pascal. 1 atmosphere equal to 10 to the power of 5 Pascal. Children, 1 atmosphere equal to 10 to the power of 5 Pascal by 10 to the power of minus 4. So you will get the answer 100 into, so 10 to the power of 9, that equal to 10 to the power of 11 Newton per meter square. But they're asking dyne per centimeter square. So children, if you want to convert this into dyne per centimeter square, 1 Newton per meter square equal to 10 dyne per centimeter square. So you will get 10 to the power of 12 dyne per centimeter square. Okay. So what is that conversion factor? 1 Newton per meter square. We'll do that. One in the now you bother about the numerator. First you see the numerator. First we do conversions in the numerator. In the numerator we have Newton, right? For 1 Newton, how many dynes we have? 10 to the power of 5 dyne, that you know. So right from the childhood you have been studying that. Meter square, 1 meter equal to 10 to the power of minus 10 square centimeter, but meter square we have. So 10 to the power of 4 centimeter square. 1 meter equal to 100 centimeter. So meter square is equal to 10 to the power of 4 centimeter square. What is left in the numbers? 10 in the numerator. 10 dyne per centimeter square. This is the conversion factor. 1 Pascal equal to 10 CGS units. 1 Pascal equal to 10 CGS units. Okay, children? Understood? Okay, copy that. First we get the answer in Pascal, then convert that into dyne per centimeter square. Done? Okay, next. Copy if you haven't copied. An elevator cable is to have a maximum stress of 7 into 10 to the power of 7 Pascal. Okay, stress means we don't use Pascal per stress. Even though it is Newton per meter square, we don't use, but in some of the textbooks they use Pascal also. Okay. An elevator, generally Newton per, that Pascal we use only for pressure. The SI unit of pressure is Newton per meter square. That we say Pascal. So here for stress also we have Newton per meter square, but this Newton per meter square generally we don't call it as Pascal. Okay. Now see here. An elevator cable is to have maximum stress of 7 into 10 to the power of 7 Newton per meter square to allow for appropriate safety factors. Its maximum upward acceleration is 1.5 meter per second square. If the cable has to support the total weight of 2000 kg of a loaded elevator, the area of cross section of the cable should be, okay, see children, cable of the elevator. Okay, so this is the elevator, and in the elevator, for the elevator we have a cable. There will be some tension with the cable, and here we have load. Okay, so load is mg. Now, and it is accelerating upward with an acceleration. Now, if you apply Newton's second law, so if you apply Newton's second law, tension T minus mg will be equal to ma. Sigma Fi equal to may. Tension T is equal to mg plus ma. Okay, first you calculate tension. So tension is equal to mass is how much? How much mass it has to support? 2000 kg. So multiply with G, you'll get 20,000 Newton plus 2000, 2000 into 1.5 acceleration. So tension will be equal to 20,000 plus how much is this? 3,000, right? 3,000. Okay, 23,000. So tension is 23,000 Newton. 23,000 Newton. Okay, once we get the tension, what is the maximum stress allowed? This is the maximum stress allowed. So tension in the cable divided by cross-sectional area gives you the stress. Am I correct, children? Okay, so what is cross-sectional area? Tension divided by 7 into 10 to the power of 7. That is 23 into 10 cubed divided by 7 into 10 to the power of 7. You will get first area in meter square, then convert that into centimeter square. Can you do that? Do that. So if the elevator is accelerating, tension will be more. If the elevator is at rest, tension will be less. Done? How much you got? Tell me, are you getting the correct answer? First, you will get the answer in meter square, then convert that into centimeter square. 1 meter square equal to 10 to the power of 4 centimeter square. Okay. Option A you are getting? Okay. Okay. Right. Go to the next one. Okay. A steel ring of radius R and cross-sectional area A is fitted onto a wooden disc of radius capital R. So if the Young's modulus of the steel is Y, then the force with which steel ring is expanded is okay. Here, what is the change in the length? Delta L you have to calculate. So when you hit the ring, so this is the wooden wheel. Generally in the olden days, so we used to see wooden wheels, and on the top of wooden wheels, so they put a iron ring, and see, to fit that they heat the iron ring, and after heating, so it will expand, and when it expands, so it can easily fit on the onto the wooden wheel. Now they cool it. Once they cool it, so it will contract. So when it contracts, it tightly fits onto the wooden wheel so that it will not come out. So radius of wooden wheel is capital R, and initial radius of ring was small r. So it has to be expanded. Now, what is the change in the length? You can calculate. Delta L of the ring is equal to, when you heat it, 2 pi r is the final length minus initial length is 2 pi small r. That is 2 pi r minus r is the change in the length. 2 pi r. 2 pi r is the final length. 2 pi small r is the initial length. So 2 pi r minus r. Delta L you got. What is the formula for delta L? Okay, so delta L or else, okay, delta L is equal to F L divided by AY. Am I correct? Here we have F. Pull the value of F. F is equal to YA delta L divided by L. Y area, so cross-sectional area, okay, they gave that. A only keep A. Delta L, what is the value of delta L? 2 pi, okay, so R minus R. What was the initial length of the initial length? 2 pi R. 2 pi gets cancelled, so you'll get YA into R minus R divided by R. Okay, children, this is the force with which it has to be heated. Which option? Option B. Okay, understood? Understood, children? Diagram, okay. Diagram, okay. See, I have a wooden wheel. Okay, wooden wheel. Okay, I'll take help of this. woven. This is wooden wheel. Okay. So wooden wheel will be like this. Okay. Okay. I am trying to draw a closer diagram. Okay, that is wooden wheel. Even this part is wooden. Even this part is also wooden. They'll make wooden sections and they fit it. Okay, they'll make wooden sections like this. This part. Now to give that strength to the wooden wheel, so they attach one ring on the top of that here on the boundary. Now initially the wooden ring, iron ring will have a small radius compared to that wooden wheel. Okay. Now see here, the radius of the iron ring is r. What is the initial length of iron ring? 2 pi r. Okay. Now, if I want to put this iron ring, this is iron ring. Iron ring. If you want to place this iron ring on the top of this wooden ring, can you place directly without heating it? Tell me. This radius is capital R. This radius is capital R, and they said capital R is greater than small r. So can you put this iron ring on the wooden ring? Can you put? No. What do you have to do? Iron ring can expand on heating, right? What do you have to do? You have to heat it, right? You have to heat. When you heat it, so till when you have to heat it? Till at least till the radius of iron ring becomes equal to wooden radius. Am I correct? Till the radius of iron ring becomes equal to the radius of wooden wheel. At least, okay, slightly greater than that, slightly greater than you neglect. So what should be the final length of iron ring? 2 pi capital R. Am I correct? At least. So the final length of the iron ring should become at least 2 pi r. That is the length of boundary of the wooden wheel. Then it will fit. Now, what is the change in the length of that iron ring? Final length minus initial length. That we are substituting. That's it. Okay. Done, children? Understood? Okay. Shall we go to the next one? Okay. Next. Consider the following statement. In a streamline flow, kinetic energies of all the particles arriving at a given point are same. Correct. The momenta of all particles arriving at a given point are same. Correct. The speed of particles are below critical velocity. Yes. Then only it will be streamline flow. Which of the following above options? So option D. All are correct. Streamline flow. The streamline flow, all the particles, say this is a streamline. All the particles upon reaching a particular point will move with the same velocity. So momenta will be same, kinetic energy will be same, and critical velocity will be velocity speed will be below critical velocity. Then only it will become streamline flow. So option D is correct. All the three statements are correct. Next. Solid friction is independent of area of surface in contact, and viscous drag is also independent of area of layers in contact. This is wrong because viscous force depends on area of contact. F equal to eta A dV by dx. Do you remember? So viscous force is directly proportional to area. But in the option A, they are saying the first option they are saying it is not. It is independent. So it is wrong. Actually, viscous force is independent. It's wrong. Solid friction depends on the relative velocity of one body on the surface of another body. No, no. Solid friction doesn't depend on relative velocity, but viscous drag depends on relative velocity between two layers. This is correct. Wait. Solid friction depends on relative velocity. No, wrong. But viscous force depends on relative velocity. Solid friction is directly proportional to a normal reaction. Correct. Why? Because F equal to mu n. Do you remember? Solid friction. F equal to mu n, mu s n or mu k n. So solid friction is directly proportional to normal reaction. That is true. While the viscosity is independent of the normal reaction. Correct. Viscous force, and in viscous force we don't take the normal reaction, right? Only we see velocity gradient and area of contact. That's it. So that's why option 3 is correct. So option 3 means only C. Only C. You understood, children? Formula of viscosity. Force on a flat surface. Force on a flat surface is eta A dV by dx. For viscous force on a spherical object is 6 pi eta RV. 6 pi eta RV. For a spherical object. Okay. Next. The relative velocity of two parallel layers of water is 8 centimeter per second. Relative velocity. If the perpendicular distance between the layers is 0.1 centimeter, the velocity gradient. Velocity gradient is nothing but dv by dx. So velocity gradient is nothing but relative velocity by perpendicular distance. That's it. Relative velocity by perpendicular distance. Relative velocity by perpendicular distance. What is the relative velocity? 8 centimeter per second. Divided by perpendicular distance 0.1 centimeter. So relative velocity by perpendicular distance, remember. That is the velocity gradient, dv by dx. Okay, how much you get? 80. Centimeter gets cancelled. 80 per second. 80 per second. Done, children? Okay. A solid ball of volume V experiences a viscous force of F when falling with a speed V. So in a liquid, if another ball of volume 8V with the same velocity V is allowed to fall in the same liquid, it experiences. Say, children, whenever a solid object is moving with the terminal velocity, then viscous force is given by according to Stokes law. F equal to 6 pi eta RV. So if the solid object has radius r and volume v naught, instead of v, I say v naught. Let us take v naught. Okay, why? Because v symbol we use for speed. Okay. So if the radius is r, then viscous force is this much. Suppose if we have another solid object which is moving in the same viscous liquid and radius is r dash, a volume is 8 v naught. So that means for this object, volume is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. But for the second object, 8 v naught is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube dash. So now, what will get here? 8 into 4 by 3 pi r naught cube, okay, r cube is equal to 4 by 3 pi r dash cube. This will be cancelled and you will get r dash is equal to 2r. So if the volume of second solid sphere is 8 times the volume of first solid sphere, then radius of second sphere will be twice the radius of first sphere. Now what will be the viscous force on the second one? 6 is same, pi is same, eta is same, r is 2r, r into v. So same speed. Okay. So F dash is equal to 2 times of F. That's it. Okay. So F dash equal to 2 times of F. Today we'll stop. So the remaining 6 problems Aram we can do tomorrow. And if time is left, I'll do some previous year IIT questions, IIT and mains questions.